Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 35 of Talkoffamepod podcast. I'm Kylie. Today we have one of the top music producers and composer in the industry, Marcus Bell. Thanks so much for coming on, Marcus. I'm so happy to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy to have you on. So over the last kind of couple of years, we've kind of been in isolation. So what's something they kind of did over the last 2 years they kind of wouldn't have time to do before?
Yeah, well, when the pandemic initially started, there was that moment because I have a 6-year-old daughter, and so there was that moment where she was no longer had school, right? Like that period, and so having to reorganize the whole world of my activity of life, um, and really spend so much time with her. That was one of the most beautiful and precious things that came out of the pandemic, which I didn't plan for or expect. And of course, it was also challenging too,
Yeah.
having to navigate doing school over Zoom and so forth, and coordinating that with family. But it also gave me an opportunity to really contribute to more people. So I have a program called Wealth and Impact Bootcamp, and which helps entrepreneurs and people that want to really make an impact in the world with their lives. And so what I did when the pandemic happened was really focus a lot of my energy and effort into supporting that community, supporting people that were maybe struggling with the changes. And so I have a lot of help to offer people that go through transitions, whether they're transitioning from one age to the next, or one job to the next, or someone that's working, in a job and they want to become an entrepreneur, or, like that, or someone that, really wanted to be a recording artist, or really wanted to be a visual artist, or really wanted to be a public speaker, or really wanted to make a difference in their community. But for whatever reason, there were some holdbacks. And so one of the things that I did during the pandemic was create a lot of different ways to support people with their bigger goals in life. And so so that was another beautiful thing that occurred during the pandemic.
Oh, that's awesome. Like, did you do this before COVID happened, or did you kind of came up with the idea like when kind of COVID kind of started?
Yeah, so this has been going on for a few years. What COVID allowed me to do was, because more people came online, right?
Yeah.
Everyone was more forced online, and so that part of my business really started to like explode in ways that I would have never anticipated, and people becoming more and more open to looking at creating what's new, right?
Yeah,
Creating something different for their lives, because if you're kind of on the treadmill of life and you're just going through your normal day to day without much time to think about what it is that you really want to do. What is it that's on your heart and in your spirit? Why were you really put here on the planet? If you're so busy and you don't have not made space to really consider those things, which end up impacting the things that you end up doing, right?
yeah.
And so I've been supporting a lot of people with that, and in particular, it came out of my work with working with a lot of different celebrities. And so I would have friends of mine that would win a Grammy, and then the next day it's like, now what? I worked my whole life to get to that point, and then once you get it, then what? So I believe in creating something that's bigger than that goal that you may have in mind. Because once you meet your goals, whether that's a money goal or getting in the charts or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Once you win, whatever winning is you think is winning, then what? Same thing with Olympic athletes. Same thing with people that are on teams and play a big game, and then that game is over. It's kind of like the performance high, as I like to call it in the music industry. It's like you'll be doing like stadium concerts and there's hundreds of thousands of people singing your song and chanting and so forth. And then you go back home to your apartment, right? From hundreds of thousands of people screaming and partying with you to being alone, right? That transition is something that I suggest people plan for, right? You plan for it. And the way you plan for it is creating something that's bigger than self, something that is a contribution, right? So that aim that you take on is in service of something bigger than you. Because once something is bigger than you and it's about other people, then there is no, like, oh, now what, right? Because there's always more people that can be helped.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm from a small town in Pennsylvania. Like I never pictured myself doing this. Like I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. And so like I was always like a very kind of shy, independent little kid. And I used to like kind of quit on things instantly. Like once I first flew out, like, no, I don't want to do this, no my thing. And so like I was always a very independent, like scared child. Like I was always like a independent. I would rely on others to do things for me. That was kind of person I was. And so like I dealt with anxiety and depression, and just recently got put on medication and got diagnosed with anxiety disorder last year. And so before I even started this whole thing. And so it was a really tough patch. But then like even like the pandemic has been rough for basically everybody, depending on like school, work, like their careers, basically every single thing. And so like once I got kind of cleared on the medication and got kind of cleared, I started a podcast. He's like basically everyone's inspiration like kind of pushed me to start this whole thing. And like in like this whole thing, pandemic has really taught me to do more things and give people inspiration to show like that there are people like them. Like I never did. Like I never had inspirations growing up when I was a kid. I never found people like me. So I just want to show people that they're like not alone and that there are people like them in the world. And like it's people that really started this whole thing for me was like Gina Davis, Hugh Jackman, Patrick Dempsey, Kate Walsh, and Ellen Pompeo. Those are like my biggest inspirations that got me through the depression, anxiety. They all got me through it, and reason why I started this whole thing. And so like, they impact me so much. And so they're just amazing. And now I know like now I'm on episode 35 and almost hit a year in April with the whole podcast. So now I'm like, okay, this is actually getting very serious now. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, the beautiful thing about what you're doing is, you solve the needs that you have, right? And a lot of times we have the same needs other people have, right? Right. And that you would work through anxiety and put yourself out there says a lot about your capacities as a, as a developing entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
To create something of value that is for an audience, for your audience that you're growing and building. And so you didn't allow your circumstances or health or whatever it is, however you want to label something, right? Stop you from actually taking action on something that is important, right? Important to you, and then becomes important to others, just like the others were important to you. Right? And so it's kind of like it's like a circle. The thing, as you were inspired, now you're inspiring. So if we look at our lives from that lens, that, it's kind of like the whole pass it forward phenomenon, right? Like pass it on, right? Pass on inspiration. And anyone can do that. Anyone can do that. Anyone can be inspired. If you're inspired by this conversation, what is it that you can take out of this conversation that the two of us are having, right? Listener, and take this conversation and use it as fuel to create something that is helpful and useful for others.
Yeah, for sure. Like I never picture myself like being a podcaster or being in industry. Like I knew I was gonna be in industry, but I just never knew what exactly I wanted to do with myself in the industry. And so like I felt inspired by so many people in the industry, but I didn't know what I exactly wanted to do. I tried so many things like acting, singing, many other things, and like they just didn't work out. And so like I always like I'm just happy. That's my favorite type of thing is inspiring people. Like how much as people, my idols and people in the industry inspired me, I want to be like them and inspire others, the audience, and my guests' audience, whoever listens, to be their inspiration, pull out what my personal experiences have taught me to teach them what that you're not alone. Even though I'm still struggling with anxiety and depression, I'm struggling still. Each and every day is a battle, but like I'm still doing this. I'm not gonna stop. Like no matter what people tell me, I'm not gonna stop. So like no matter what anyone says, I'm still doing this. Like no one can stop me.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, depression is one of those topics that there are a lot of people that struggle with depression, and from what I can tell and just what I know from it, there's some people that are functioning powerfully with it, right? And still doing things, and whatever effort that it takes for them to do things, they're still doing things. And then there's the kind that is the debilitating kind, right? Where it's not it's not easy to get up and go, right? It's the same thing with grief, right? When someone passes away and you have to deal with the grief. It's not something that you can just jump over, right? And step over. There's certain things in life that we can't just step over, or it's going to pop up later in some other way. And so just it's a normal thing, right? It's so everywhere, especially with the things the massive changes that happen with like the pandemic. The amount of divorces have increased, the amount of people dealing with depression and anxiety has increased, and all of that. And I'm someone that doesn't look at the media. I'm in the media, but I don't watch the media, right? So I don't watch television. I don't look at newspapers and so forth. So I am not pulled into the anxiety environment that is created to keep people's eyeballs and attention on things that also foster, these types of conditions. So I would recommend to your audience, maybe go on a media fast if you've experienced anxiety from watching the news or scrolling on social media and like that, to fast those things that cause the anxiety, right? And do something else, like replace it with something else. And this is one of the things that was created during the pandemic, was the 100 Days Impact Challenge. And with the 100 Days Impact Challenge, really that project was about selecting a thing that's important and going after it with the support of community, because we created a community for it, with specialized knowledge, because there's like a mini course inside of the challenge that people can take that helps you optimize your life, help you optimize the things that you do, that you're going to take on, that you're going to put yourself out there to do, even if it's, or put yourself in there to do. So sometimes people take on like a meditation challenge or gratitude challenge, or someone launches a business, right? Or put themselves out there more in social media. There have been people in the challenge that have been on the covers of magazines because of the activity that they did in the challenge, or they've been on television because of the activity they did inside of the challenge. So that 100 Days Impact Challenge, and that's 100 days with a Z, if someone wants to look it up. That challenge is also an opportunity to like step outside of yourself and then put yourself in an environment, right, that helps you forward what it is that's important to you.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. So as I kind of mentioned kind of before, you are like a composer and music producer. What kind of made you want to start that?
Yeah, well, I started when I was 2 years old playing the piano. And so I was a child prodigy. And I remember being a kid sitting on phone books at the piano, right? And doing performances when I was 6 years old. And really, I was very fortunate to discover the thing that is one of my purposes here on the planet, right? Which is music. And I was fortunate enough to, and I was born in Norfolk, Virginia. I was fortunate enough to have parents that really supported, all the trainings and all the lessons and saying yes to the opportunities of me performing and getting the kind of attention that I got when I was younger. And so there was a distinct moment where I decided, you know what, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I consider myself a lifer. I will always be doing music in some form or fashion, whether, that's me as a producer, whether that's me as a recording artist, me as a musician. And so it's just one of those things that's like breathing air for me. It's as natural as water is in the body. Music occurs to me like that. When I listen to music, I hear everything. I hear the production. I hear the effects that were used. I hear the reverbs that were used. I hear how it was mastered. I hear the EQ. I hear the lyrics of the song and how the song was constructed. I hear the arrangement. I hear the instruments. So there's never a moment of boredom, right? I'm always studying and I'm always practicing. So even if I'm not in a recording studio, I have notes on my phone, and I'm just constantly creating music. I probably do maybe 20 ideas a day throughout the day, right? Like that. And so that having music be not just as a lifer, but as a lifestyle, because I think once you commit yourself to something that is your thing, your contribution into the world, that it goes from being the thing that you do to the thing that you become. Like you become it. Now I'm separate from it too, right? I also recognize I am not music, right? Music is a tool of self-expression for me. And just as entrepreneurship is a tool of expression of my passion around like marketing and business and reaching people and like that. And so there's me, Marcus Bellringer Bell, the being, and then there are the things that I do, right? And one of the things I do is support recording artists and creatives. Another thing that I do is support entrepreneurs and thought leaders and influencers, right? And another thing I do is be a dad, right? Be Baba, as she calls me, right? For a little girl, like that.
Yeah, I love it. Like music is such a like a big part in everyone's life, especially mine. I can't even live without music. Like music, it wouldn't be a thing without you guys, like producers, composers, and all those things. And I don't know where I'd be without music. Like music is such a big part of my life. Like I listen to it all day, every day when I'm like in the mood to listen to it. Like I listen to like Walker Hayes, Ariana Grande, like basically everyone. I listen to basically everyone, like Katy Perry and all those people. So like there's so many people. Like music means a lot to everyone, especially during quarantine. There's a lot of music being discovered and a lot of music being written. But it's a lot has changed, especially most of everyone's basically doing at home, writing songs and stuff at home since we aren't allowed to go anywhere. And with the whole pandemic, a lot has changed. But what do you think the music, like making music and stuff has changed since like COVID hit?
Well, I see artists respond differently. So there are some artists that are stopped by the situation, right? And so there's an artist that took the Wealth and Impact Bootcamp program, and when he first came into the program, he had lost all his gigs because of COVID, right? So he was performing regularly every week. That was his main source of income and revenue. And so when the gigs stopped, because of course, no one could be out, right? He got blue about it and really stopped practicing, stopped music, really. And so when he came into the program and he ended up taking 100 Days Impact Challenge and decided that, you know what, I am not going to be stopped anymore. I'm going to go on social media every single day and I'm going to do a new song, right? I'm going to do a song from my repertoire. I'm going to do a song. And so he decided, you know what, enough is enough. I'm still going to be expressing myself through music and building audience and all those things that ended up happening as a result of taking that action. And so there's the artists that have been stopped, and then there are the artists that have actually applied the gas pedal to their creativity. And I've been working on a new album, a new bell ringer album, where I've pretty much in the past 4 months done maybe 27 songs now.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so I'm now having to decide, okay, am I going to keep recording more and then do 50 songs or do 100 songs and then decide what's going to get released? But over the next couple of months, I'm probably going to release one of the songs that I've recorded. But the amount of creative energy that gets released when you take the opportunity, the golden moment that has been provided us to be able to allow our creativity to be unleashed. I would recommend all artists, all want to be artists, all could be artists, to leverage now as an opportunity to get your creativity expressed. Whether that's taking an online piano lesson, or whether that's taking a singing lesson, or whether that's getting poetry, or whether that's picking up a sheet of paper and a pen and going online and doing some drawings. So I remember when the pandemic first happened, there's this children's book author and illustrator named Mo Willems, and he does incredible work. And he got on, and this was, I forget which organization sponsored this, but he got on and basically had these drawing lessons, right? I would never have picked up doing something like that.
Yeah.
Right. But here I am with Melanie, my 6-year-old, and we're sitting there and we're drawing some of Mo Willems' characters from his books. Right. And I don't consider myself, I'm colorblind, so I don't consider myself like quite fit for like visual arts like that.
Yeah.
But I discovered myself as someone that could be a visual artist just by that one thing. And so yeah. And then in terms of music as an opportunity for healing, music is a tool unlike any other tool. So whether you have depression or anxiety, right? Music can completely shift what's happening in your brain and in your emotions. It can shift everything if used that way. So I encourage people to put together playlists that are mood-oriented playlists of songs that do something for you, right? So like the inspiration playlist, like what are the songs that inspire you, right? You put those on and you can't help but dance or whatever, get out of yourself, out of your routine. Or what are those songs that capture, the emotion that you are feeling, and right, and create these emotional playlists that you can use as a tool when you need to use the medicine that music can be.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like so many songs on my playlist that like I need to make playlists or which ones that I like need a dance or calm, because I have like more than 600 songs on my playlist, which is very kind of difficult to like, okay, which one does gives me the mood to do something, like which one helps me do stuff. Like because my music taste is so bad, like not bad, but like I'm into every single thing. And so like it's like very difficult to like think like, okay, why is every song on my playlist something that I'm feeling right now? Like this is insane.
Mm.
And so like that's like the most important thing music is. It's like that you like every single song, not like there's every song that will connect with you. Any song by any artist, no matter if it's like rock and roll, pop, country, rap, no matter what genre it is, like you can feel any emotion no matter what kind of genre it is, no matter what song, singer, genre, like you will always feel something from the song.
Yeah, well, that's our job as artists. I would assert is to be able to communicate emotion, but also evoke emotion in the listener.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So you have worked with some like big stars like Nicki Minaj, Katy Perry, Snoop Dogg, and many more. What was your kind of experience working with them and some other big names in the industry?
Yeah, well, I work with a lot of different artists in different genres, a lot of different artists, different ages, a lot of different artists from different, um, places in the world, right? So whether it's K-pop or doing work in Turkey with Turkish artists, or and then you know a lot of different genres. So the way I see music maybe is a little bit different um, than a lot of people see music. See, there, and maybe this is also a function of me going to like Berklee School of Music. So when I went to Berklee School of Music, there are thousands of writers and songwriters and musicians, and I've seen some of the most incredible talent in the world,
Mhm.
right? Throughout my life, right? Some of the best singers that you've never heard of. I've heard some of the best songs that you've never heard of. I've heard some of the best productions that you've never heard, right?
Yeah.
And so my view on like celebrity is a little bit different, just because I've been a part of some people's careers before they became celebrities, right?
Yeah.
And I've been a part of people's careers when they were at the peak of their celebrity, and then their celebrity fade because of lack of maintenance or marketplace shift, or what was popular, dubstep's no longer popular, and now whatever the situation is. And so I don't look at celebrity and I don't look at the names, I look at the human beings, right? And so I'm as satisfied musically working with a new artist, right, as I am someone that's established. In fact, I was thinking about this earlier a lot. There are some constraints that happen when you're working with known artists, right? Because there's a consideration of audience, tradition, like that. And the thing with new artists is, for the most part, there's the opportunity to take risks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To try new things in a different way, right? And not that you can't do that with major artists, because that does happen too, and I enjoy that. And and there are projects that I've done in the past that are so abstract, right? The merger of Tibetan Buddhist instruments with classical, and right, there's not a playlist that this would necessarily fit on in the pop charts.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right,
exactly. Yeah.
right. Those are the things that that musically excite me, right? Is when I'm able to merge things. for example, there was an artist that I worked with many years ago. This was like back in the 90s, right? And it was before there was like anybody doing hip hop country. And there was this artist, his name's Gary King, an amazing vocalist and songwriter. And we did a whole project that was hip hop country, right? And this was before anyone had done that. Those are the kinds of things that excite me, right? Are the things that are forward pushing, and then just a good song, something that evokes emotion. Like those things excite me as well, even if it's something that's, you know, that is working in the commercial charts. So I enjoy all of it. I enjoy the people, I enjoy the artists, I enjoy the process, and because, you know, I really care about human beings.
Yeah.
Right. I care about the person. It's not the thing that makes the person successful. It's the person. Right. Because someone could be unknown right now and have that seed of icon status in them. Right. The unknown person could be the icon of the future. And so I never measure my activity based on where someone is in their journey, because, you know, that can happen and that can change overnight.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Like
does that answer your question?
oh yeah, you did. And so like that's really how I basically count on people. It's like I don't really care about kind of like their celebrity status. Like I don't care how many roles they've been in or how many successful songs they made. Like I don't really care about that. Like that's something like I love, like kind of count on as like a journalist and someone I want something I want to be as big as like that song or as big as that artist. And so like sometimes I think like I want to be an icon for some people. Like I want to be an icon, like some of the A-listers one day. And so like some people always think like you should always count on a celebrity as like as their work. Like the only thing we should count on is their work, not their private life and their personality. That's like the only thing we care about. And I always think, always from my personal perspective, I always count on like their personality and like what they're like behind being in industry, what are they like behind like what they do. So that's like something kind of people need to kind of start doing is like that they're not, yes, they're famous, they're human. They're human like us. They're normal human beings. Yes, they might be chased around by the paparazzi probably every single day when they go outside. But they're the same they're the same people as us. Like they're human beings that they need to be treated like one instead of be treated differently, basically being their fame kind of towards them a little bit.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. You know, a general public is not going to get to know a celebrity really.
Yeah.
So that, you know, so there's a, yeah, I mean, there's a human being there, but there's a role there, right? So when I work with people that are up and coming stars, up and coming celebrities, right? There is a role that is, and a responsibility, right, to an audience. And so it's a very delicate thing, right? Because there is the building of a brand, right? And then there is who the person is that is the brand that always changes and evolves or grow. Like in the best case scenarios, people change, evolve, and grow. And sometimes what happens is the changing, evolving, and growth that happens for the person and the changing, evolving, and the growth for the brand are two separate things.
Yeah.
Right. And the rate that you change and evolve and grow a brand is a lot slower than the human being growth and development.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
So there's a, yeah. So I mean, there's a world that I can say about that, but it's really, you know, separating out for a listener, for a fan, or or someone that is interested in an artist or a celebrity like that is really, what is it about them that is drawing you to them?
Yeah.
And once you identify like, oh, I love the way this person, whatever, right? The way that they talk about XYZ. Usually the thing that you see that you love and appreciate, usually that thing is something that's nested inside of you.
Yeah.
So you can use the people that you admire as an access to something that is possible inside of you. And that's the way I kind of look at the world of that.
Yeah, same here, same here. So we kind of talked about this before, but you have created the 100 Days Challenge, as we kind of talked about a little before, but what kind of made you want to start that?
Yeah, well, that came out of the seeing the results that people were producing in Wealth and Impact Bootcamp. And I decided to make a public launch of some of the tools that are used inside of Wealth and Impact Bootcamp to have people produce high results, and make that available for anyone for $1 a day for 100 days, right? For $100, someone can sign up for the 100 Days Impact Challenge. That's days with a Z, and get a taste of tools that are used to help people propel in the world with their most important aims.
Oh, I love it. Like, did you kind of think like you would make an organization kind of like that? Like, did you know this is kind of like a problem that was going on for a while, or is it kind of something that just kind of snapped and just hit you that you should do this?
Yeah, so every business that I've started has come out of identifying a need, right? And so so I had started many years ago a digital marketing agency because I was working with a bunch of artists, and they were having issues with their social media and so forth. And I had some specialized knowledge, and had some friends that had specialized knowledge on how to go about social media and building audiences and so forth. And so that's why I created that agency. And the first clients in that agency were artists that I had been working with. And then I noticed that, oh, okay, there are things outside of the music and outside of the art that people aren't addressing, right? So like, how do you create something that's more purposeful with what you're doing, right? You can be successful, but is that having significance? So then I started supporting artists with creating their lives to be one of significance, not just the success of achieving awards and notoriety. And then like all these other areas of life, like, how do you plan for that? And so I started creating programs to support that. And then I started to expand out to like Wealth and Impact Bootcamp to support people that aren't just artists, but those that are podcasters. I have podcasters inside of Wealth and Impact Bootcamp. I have speakers inside of Wealth and Impact Bootcamp. I have doctors, teachers, coaches, right? Creatives, visual artists. And so there are a lot of, I've had like people that work in the space industry in there, people that work in government, people that are in the military, right? And so it's a broad enough spectrum where I'm able to really use all my knowledge in a lot of different areas that I've studied and practiced, and be able to support people. And so that came out of identifying a need and just creating something to satisfy that need. Now, I believe that, at least for me, that's the way I go about creating enterprise, is based on the needs of the environment that I see and the people in that environment. I very rarely do I say, oh, I have this great idea and I think people will like it. No, people have a need. Do I have help for that need? Okay, how do I create it so that they can get access to the help that I have? And so that's how that happened.
Oh, love that. Like, that's amazing. Like, at least you can like speak to people all around the world and try to connect with different people, like politicians and all that. Like, that's like my favorite kind of thing about doing this podcast and having social media, is I can connect from um different people, like singer-songwriters, composers, producers, like actors, many more from all around the world. And so and I sometimes receive messages saying like how much my podcast impacted them that they want to start a podcast. And to me, like once I read those messages, my heart just melts. Like I'm like sometimes I think I'm doing something important. Like, this is something I love doing that I hope is continues to be an impact on people like it is right now. And so like before I even want to kind of be like a podcaster or journalist, I want to be a politician, basically, be in the government. Because like I guess like I'm a huge Gina Davis fan, as I kind of said earlier on, and she has a show called Commander in Chief where it's about the first woman president, all that, basically how the like being a president, all that kind of system works. And so like once I first watched the show, it made me want to become a politician. So I got really into that. But if I didn't want to become a journalist one day, I'll be a politician basically someday and become like a president or something. I'm not sure it's gonna happen, but that's something probably a good goal of mine I want to do, probably.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. There are pathways to everything it is that you want. Right.
Yeah.
So there are systems in place. There are ways to go about creating that. And because I've also supported people that have become politicians, and I've seen a lot in that area, and there is a pathway if you want to make a policy, type of impact, or a governance type of impact. There are ways to go about that and build that. And so if that's what you want to do, then
might as well go for it then. Might as well.
Well, there's discovering what the systems are that exist for that to happen, and then seeking specialized knowledge from people that know how that system works, and then organizing your life and your activity around that outcome, and the amount of time that the years that it will take for that outcome to be achieved, right? So it's like if you want to be a lawyer, and you're in high school and you say, okay, I want to be a lawyer, you don't the next day go and take the bar exam, right? There's a process. You got to go to, go to college and then grad school. Like there's a whole process for being a lawyer, if that's what you want to do. Right. And it's the same thing with everything else. If you want to be a singer, there's a way to go about doing that. If you want to be a recording artist that charts in Billboard, there's a way. If you want to get nominated for a grant, there's a process for everything.
Yeah, there's always a process. Like no matter like what you're doing, even if like you're a politician, like or like a singer, journalist, like or want to become like a lawyer, there's always a process. No matter what you want to be, a doctor, for as an example, there's always something you got to do to be that. And so it might take months, days, years, 10 years, no matter what it takes, there's always like a little process. And so like the thing I kind of learned when I was starting the podcast is that like it's not like, I don't know how to kind of explain it, but it's like it takes time to like grow your platform and get known. That's kind of something that I kind of thought was gonna happen overnight. And like when I first kind of thought of it, like the thing is I would like to be known. I like to become be like a very well kind of known person. And so like I thought like if I release episodes so much that I'll be well known. And like it might not happen overnight. It might take a year from now, it might take months, but it doesn't happen overnight. Like that's something I'm trying to work on. It's like nothing happens overnight. And this takes time. There's always a process for that.
Yep, consistency. Yeah. That's a big part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of any process is consistency.
Yeah, for sure. So what is kind of some advice for kind of like younger generations that would like kind of be in the same kind of position as you one day?
Any advice? I don't know that I have advice except for just some thoughts, right?
Mm.
So some thoughts that I have for those that are aspiring towards entrepreneurship or aspiring towards a career in the music industry. So the first thing is, what is the environment that you're putting yourself in that is going to allow for that to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And so whether that's location. So when I left Virginia and went to Boston to go to school at Berklee School of Music there, and then I had to decide to change the location, right? And so I ultimately ended up here in LA, which is where, there's the film industry and television and music and like everything is here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fact that I can just hop in my car and go and be in the environment of the entertainment industry is significant. So I start looking at environment, and in this online digital space, right? So, is there a group? Is there networks? Are there communities to put yourself in an environment with people that are actually already doing the thing that it is that you want to do? Then there's finding mentors. So I'm a big believer in mentorship because I have mentors, right?
Yeah.
And those mentors help guide me and save me a bunch of time and pain. And so I'm a mentor for, people that take my programs. I can save them pains and time that I spent. So mentorship, seek mentors. People that have achieved something oftentimes are open to giving their ideas, but seek wise counsel from mentorship. And then the third thing is taking action, right? Taking action once you know what the actions are to take. Don't just take action just to be taking action, because you could be wasting a lot of time, energy, resources, taking actions that aren't going to get you to where you want to go. So it's identifying where you want to go and then putting those tactics and strategies in place that you check in with a mentor, someone that's done that before, that you're listening to the environment to see what other people are doing, studying what is happening, how have other people achieved it and all that, and like thinking before acting and taking deliberate action. And if someone just takes on those things, then that would dramatically impact an outcome in their lives, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's like such like a big thing nowadays, since there a lot of like crime happening nowadays, and like kind of quarantining mental health. That's so important. And like you kind of talk about mentorship. Like mentorship is basically a big part, and basically everyone has kind of like a mentor or someone to kind of look up to at what they do. And so there's millions I can say, but do you have anyone that like you that mentored that or like inspired you as a kid, or like inspired or mentored you now as an adult?
Oh, I seek mentors all the time, right? So when I was a kid, I was mentored by the guy that used to be president of the Family Channel, some executives at M&M Mars, some entrepreneurs and local entrepreneurs back in Virginia. Like I had a lot of mentorship. When I started my business, when I was 12 years old, I started a record label. And so I had mentors that were giving me input and ideas. And I seek mentors now. So I have a mentor that helps me with cryptocurrency, because I'm an investor in cryptocurrency. And so I've been investing in that and creating NFTs and things like that. And so, I have a billionaire mentor that has helped support me and gaining specialized knowledge with that. I have a mentor. Her name is Dr. Monica Sharma, and she is an expert on systemic social change, right? So she's been mentoring me for probably over 10 years now around, how systems work, right? So I believe in looking for mentors that have specific specialized knowledge. Find a master and learn from a master. And so by me studying with masters, it has increased my capacity to see connections and how things are connected, and see things that other people don't see, because I can look through the lens of masters and like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. So, like, the final question, kind of for the interview, is you wrote a #1 best-selling book called Bell Ringer Brandon Bible. What kind of inspired you to write that book?
Yeah, so that book I wrote with my mother, and it was released and became a bestseller the year that she passed away. And so I was able to celebrate, that the success of that book with her before she passed. And basically, I saw that there were a lot of artists that would approach me for support, and wouldn't necessarily be able to raise the capital to invest in working with me. And I wanted to create something that could help them,
Yeah.
right? When I couldn't be present to help them. And so I collaborated with my mom on that, and that gave us so much quality time together. We worked every single week on a bigger book, which that book actually is just a chapter. It's a book in itself, but it really is like a chapter in a bigger book that we had been working on. And that book actually was turned into an NFT back then, right? So that book was released, I think, in 2018. And so before the NFT craze happened, like, that book was one of the first books to be NFT'd, actually. And so I believe in kind of pushing the envelope on things, and that was also something that was inspiring about the book, not just the help that it provides people that go through it, because they're like, it's like a workbook inside of that book as well, that helps guide people's thinking, but also the way we released it, and using the blockchain for it, with my business partner on the book publishing company, Shalita Burke, who's actually a crypto currency expert as well as recording artist. And so we created something in particular with that book that hadn't been done before.
Oh, that's amazing. Like, and I love that. Like, I'm like love doing stuff with my parents, like doing the best, like doing some things, having connections with your parents is always amazing. But did you kind of expect the book that you made with your mom to become a #1 bestseller? Like, did you ever kind of expect that?
Yeah, I don't go about things in that way, with the expectation. I know that there's work that happens, right? And the work is creating something of tremendous amount of value, being able to articulate that value and get it to as many people as possible, right? And then everything else that happens from that, whether it's awards or whether it's becoming #1, because it was like #1 in 3 different categories. I didn't anticipate that. I couldn't have said, okay, you know what, I'm going to create a book and it's going to be #1 in 3 different categories, in Amazon, and so many people are going to read it, and all of that. But except for planting the seed for that possibility, right? And so that's kind of how I go about things. Like, even with this album that I'm gonna maybe release this year, and the singles coming off of it, like, I'm just looking to capture as much emotion as possible, right? Express as much emotion and connect with as many people with the music as possible. Now, if it goes on and becomes like a hit, or gets that's like a byproduct of like an intention and activity. But that's not the end goal for me. The end goal for me is like, I want to be able to touch the person listening, right? I want to be able to give someone that's listening hope to carry on. Like, you listening to my music and saying, oh my gosh, like, that inspires me to continue and go another day. Like, that's more valuable than any kind of award to me, right? And so that's how I look at things.
Absolutely. I love that. So I just want to thank you so, so much for coming on the podcast. It was so fun to speak with you. You're amazing at what you do. Don't give up. I can't wait to hear the songs once they come out. We'll speak soon. Thank you so much for coming on again.
All right. Thank you for inviting me. Again, I enjoyed the conversation.
Of
Much love.
course. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay. Bye.